Hello and welcome. This is the Watson Weekend. I'm Rick Watson.
Hi, I'm Jessica Liseski. Welcome back. It's Friday. We are here to untangle the mess in these headlines from warehouse walkouts to boardroom flameouts.
Yeah, and here to call retail's bluff with a smirk and a spreadsheet.
That's right. Just think of us as retail therapy with MBA level barroom insights, but barroom level honesty. We almost believe our own BS.
Yeah, not too much. We appreciate all of our listeners coming here for the program. We have a great guest in John Andrews, the CEO of Simulate. A lot of news this week. Hopefully, I'll be able to get any freaking points on the board, Jess.
I think that you have some friends on your side that have just done a little easy layups for you. So I think you're going to be in good company. I have confidence that this might be your day. We'll see.
One day we will
One
get
day.
there.
Everyone can dream. Everyone can dream.
Exactly.
Well, who brings us this fine program? Rick, you want to hit it?
Yeah. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Miracle. Because growth isn't about just speed, it's about direction. Miracle gives you the infrastructure to scale smarter, not just faster, with marketplace, dropship, retail media, and a seller platform built for what's next and powered by AI. So thank you so much to our fine friends at Miracle. As a reminder, if you're going to be at the Lowe's Summer Seller Summit in about 2 weeks in Charlotte, I'll be there. If you know, you know.
That's right.
It's a closed event, but I'll be there.
It's one of those really exclusive invite onlys where you need to know the password. So, yeah. But it sounds like a great event. And you're 3 hours down the road from me. So I hope you're going to be cruising through Raleigh and saying hi. At least.
Exactly. Just waving out the window.
That's right.
See,
right.
see ya.
Of the plane. Yeah. On your way back. So, yeah. Well, as part of the show, if you guys haven't been around in a bit, we do like to play games. Rick and I are very competitive, and we've decided to turn the headline hangover more than just a recap of the news. It's a bit guessing. It's a bit test your skills. And then we just get into the recap of what actually happened. So neither of us know what the stories are. So you really get this live. We're doing it live, Bill O'Reilly style. So
That's
let's
right.
hit it.
All right, our first story we're excited about, which is with de minimis gone, UPS halts money back guarantee on what, Jess?
Oh, so it's going to have something to do with shipments. I'm going to go with the U.S. imports.
U.S. imports is correct. I mean, am I ever gonna win this game? Look, this change, the carrier announced a change on its website that what used to be de minimis is gone.
Sure.
Totally gone. It used to allow imports of less than $800 into the United States to enter the U.S. duty and tax free, as well as without any harmonized code. All that is dead.
We're done.
Previously, that's causing a challenge for shippers. There are no guarantees for second-day air service anymore. There's been a lot of Canada Post disruptions in the news, but ultimately, because de minimis is eliminated, there are a lot more risk of delays at the border. And the reason is because there's more documentation required, new systems, more parcels that are having to clear and be checked and verified, whereas before, she ain't checked.
No, she wasn't checked. And we talk about our friends, She and Temu, that really were the masters of how de minimis should and could work to your favor. But other brands like Lululemon actually had started to work around. And I know they were mentioned in the same story as like they've got some work to do. So in the, you can't beat them, join them type fashion, other retailers had looked at ways to expose this loophole. And they got some work to do.
Yeah. Stuff needs to be fixed. And the carriers are going to do what the carriers are going to do, which is to cover their bottom line. Like, why give a money back guarantee if there's like a huge part of the process that they don't control anymore? So all of my supply chain peeps in the audience, I feel you right now. It's tough.
Good luck. Good luck, friends, especially heading into the holidays. So
yes.
All right. Let me hit my next story. So Starbucks is tying in-store experiences and rewards to new what?
New customer signups?
Oh, no, the Taylor Swift album. Rick, they had to get in on the Swifties.
I know.
Because the Swifties and the Starbies are like symbiotic with each other. So here's kind of what broke down. In celebration of the new Taylor Swift album, Life of a Showgirl, the coffee giant turned its cafes into lyrical playgrounds. Theme drink rewards, custom playlist, some baristas humming all too well in exactly the right key. But, this is coming as Starbucks is trying to win back the hearts, minds, and wallets of customers that have just gone to, the local coffee shop that's doing their thing, right?
Right.
And marketing has been one of the bright spots, according to Brian Nickel, as part of their turnaround. They did the ting tings. That's not my name. Remember? And they're like, they did that at the Super Bowl. That's not my name. So, if your name's back on the Starbucks, you're all good, feeling good, bringing that heart back into the experience. So like the fate of Ophelia, the last act may have been rough. This one's got some sparkle. Remember, they did lay off 900 people, close 400 stores.
Yeah.
So they're really on this redemption tour with Taylor, with some Elizabeth Taylor levels of drama, actually romantic timing. And they're just trying not to ruin the friendship. And if you know, you know. These are songs, Rick, that are on the up.
You're way over my head today. Safe to say I'm not a Swiftie. My daughter's not old enough. So there's that. Although she's still around, then we will be Swifties going to concerts like everyone else. Why not? Look, Starbucks is trying anything to recapture the magic. I don't know if you know this, Jess. When I go to Starbucks now, the baristas, especially the pen guy, it's almost like he's been too empowered. He's like scribbling. He's like thinking about his note, drawing a heart, putting a little arrow through it. Maybe I was being hit on. I don't know, but it's almost like I'm trying to leave the store.
Yeah,
isn't like customer throughput still a metric?
Not anymore, Rick. That is not the metric to go off of. The metric to go off of is, did you walk in with, a mission, and did you walk out with a smile? Because that they're here to change your day and make your life just a little bit better. Mission of coffee. Like, I'm in a mission. I need to get my caffeine fix. But now I'm walking out and I don't just have a caffeine fix. Someone knows my name. I've been given basically, a hug in a cup. And I'm ready to go.
I've made a new friend.
Right. So here we go. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyone remember Tommy Boy? It's not just about brake pads.
No, of course not. And also, brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
Brothers got a hug. And your barista is apparently in that number. Our next story. Back to our old favorites, retail media. Instacart, who was actually been in the news also this week for ChatGPT app platform.
Yes.
This is about retail media. They have increased their retail media bona fides with blank integration.
This one is a little tricky. So you might have stumped me with a... we talked about the MasterCard. I don't know. Is it MasterCard? No.
TikTok.
Oh, boom. The talk. All right.
So the talk is ever present. And just because you are not ChatGPT, you're still trying to say like, hey, we're still here. Select CPG advertisers will be able to use Instacart data for targeting and measurement for ads on the TikTok retail media network. Instacart is integrating the purchase and grocery selection data directly into TikTok's ad manager. And so they're actually the first retail media network to integrate the end-to-end capabilities on TikTok. And so this is interesting because Instacart has like a pretty decent sized ad business. They're not the biggest retail media network, clearly, but they have more than 7,500 active brands. Clearly, they're CPG focused. They have 1,800 retail partners in their media ecosystem. And so if you're an advertiser, if you have audience segments in Instacart, you can actually use those campaigns to target on TikTok's ad platform. And so you're going to be able to improve the shoppable ad formats there. And so when you're browsing, doom scrolling to talk, you're going to be able to get your like favorite munchies.
Dave's bread or
click through and buy on Instacart or something.
Chick Pop Boom. What's that one? Chicka Pop Boom.
Chicka Pop. Boom Chicka Pop.
Boom Chicka Pop Pops.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't know. This is a bit of a tangential thing, but in the TikTok "We're Still Here" theme that you called out, did you see TikTok's ad that was like, "Hey, I learned my math skills on TikTok"? So it's like trying to.
It's a tutor.
It's a tutor. We're here again. We're your friends. We're the place that you should be spending time. Don't use ChatGPT. They can't teach you math.
No.
Not in the same way.
Only 30-second videos can teach you math.
Only 30-second videos. So I do think this is smart of them to, continue to give advertisers a reason to hang out and spend time. There's certainly a lot of bright eyes, bushy tails on the, agentic commerce, as we've talked about, agentic commerce protocol. So anyways, I think this is pretty interesting. We'll hit the next one. I'll bring us home with the final headline. PayPal ties what to cash back?
It's almost like I don't live and work in e-commerce because I don't know. I can never win this game. PayPal ties loyalty.
Oh, you're close, but it is BNPL. And, Rick, this is a big deal because PayPal really is trying to continue to take advantage of this BNPL game. It's like driven 21% increases. I'm going to ask our production team to throw up a slide here because the BNPL game is no joke, as you know. Klarna certainly has the most web share, primarily due to the site integrations. But what PayPal is doing is offering 5% cash back through year end on BNPL purchases online and in store, because nothing says holiday cheer like a few more monthly payments. But the reality is they're seeing higher cart or higher conversion, higher AOV. And so they want their merchants to really be pushing this. Their volume has continued to grow. Like I said, it's like 33 billion. The total market this year is expected to be around 100 billion. We think they've got, 25 to 35% market share. They want to capture more of that. But they're also seeing when they get customers through BNPL, their repeat usage is high, like 74%. So it's pretty interesting. If you look at PayPal, they were later in this game, right, compared to some others, but they certainly been doing what they need to do to win back share. So I guess, my question is what are your thoughts? Is this a smart move? Are we going to be talking in Q1 about how they crush their margins with this? Or is this really a game to help those, cash-strapped consumers who ultimately still want to bring some cheer in the holidays, but they probably don't have as large of a wallet?
Yeah. Look, I think PayPal is trying to stay top of mind in the conversation. I think everyone knows BNPL has been a big growth driver in payment volume on a relative basis over the past several years. And so you don't think of PayPal when you think of pay later.
No.
You just don't. You think of a wallet. And so you think about the address that you had 3 addresses ago that your parcel is going to get shipped to if you use PayPal.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever happened to me,
many,
over and over,
many times.
over and over. That said, when you think of BNPL, you think of Affirm, you think of Afterpay, you think of Klarna. right? Like
Yeah.
even Shop Pay, like no, you don't really think, even though they have BNPL integration, that's not how you're thinking about Shop Pay. And so Shop Pay actually has the same problem PayPal does. They're trying to become known, give this 5% cash back. I mean, 5% is no joke because
That
it's the
credit card be
same.
slinging.
Yeah, it's the same thing as my Amazon Prime discount on my Amazon credit card, which is well used. So I think it could have a big impact for them, at least from a promotional point of view. I mean, it's going to be a highly promotional
Yes.
holiday season. We're already seeing discounts. Clearly, we're kind of in prime. We're already in Prime Day, early Prime Day season right now. And that's the kickoff to the holiday. But everyone also knows your biggest purchases, if you can wait just a couple of more months, do you think that your discount is going to be less or greater on Black Friday or Cyber Monday?
Way greater.
It's going to be bigger. So hold off, consumers. You know,
don't let them trick you.
Yeah, don't let them trick you. Don't fall for it.
Yeah. So great wrap up. BNPL is certainly the gift that continues to keep on giving. It seems like there is more to unpack here, especially as the volume grows and we see what happens with like the consumer dynamics. So,
right.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up Headline Hangover. We do have a very interesting guest, John Andrews, and the AI conversation continues not only on the Watson Weekend, but I feel like basically, if you aren't talking about AI on LinkedIn, what are you doing with yourself? So, Rick, kind of break down for us, give us John's bio, background, and then would love to kick it off.
Yeah, John Andrews is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Simulate, which is an AI native commerce platform to help power context-aware search. And so the idea is that if you're a big site on the internet, you have a lot of traffic. And so as a result, you can do a lot of A/B testing, and that is a tool in your toolbox for personalizing your site, offers, making sure that the results you're publishing, if you're testing things, is accurate. If you're a smaller site, it's hard to do that because you just don't have enough statistically significant traffic to actually get good results. And so John has a long history. He was CEO of Select, which is a retail analytics company. Many folks know that was acquired by Nike. He was previously also at Endeca, which was a very, very popular search company that was acquired by Oracle back in the day. And so they were kind of part of the Oracle Commerce Suite after the ATG acquisition. So these are legit commerce OGs that are now back. Like a couple of other folks, Mr. Wingo is in this number. It's like commerce OGs that are back in the space with a new startup. And surprise, surprise, it's agentic. So happy to hear about his journey. We're not just talking about the company, but we're also just talking about how retail has evolved, some of the trends that are happening, how, where AI is going to shake out, what are the advantages and disadvantages, all those things. So we hope you tune in. It's an exciting conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome to the Watson Weekend. I'm Rick Watson. I'm very pleased to have the co-founder and CEO of a software company in the agentic merchandising search space here, Simulate, John Andrews. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Super happy to be here. Thanks for the time.
I mean, John, the first thing we were talking before the show, we have like 200 plus connections in common on LinkedIn, which is like commerce is such a small world, yet we've never met. Would love to unpack your history a little bit. You're like one of the commerce OGs, go back to 2004. You're in product at Endeca, which means you were actually one of the people. First of all, I'm always partial to product people, being a former product guy myself, and so you actually knew what was going on in Endeca, and not just sort of there. You're building the future of it. Talk to me about how you got into e-commerce, and then kind of your journey through Endeca, Oracle, Nike, and into Simulate.
No, I appreciate it. I always feel like when I'm in a crowd, if I'm presenting somewhere and I mention Endeca, you can see the OG commerce people. who like
Right.
acknowledge and be like, "Oh, of course I remember Indec." And then you have, some other folks who are like, "I don't, yeah, it doesn't ring a bell." And it's like, okay, you're newer to the commerce space, but that's fine as well.
Totally fine.
Yeah, so I started in 2004 at Indec. I was at Deloitte Consulting prior to that, doing some retail and supply chain and commerce related stuff within Deloitte, but then got introduced to Steve Papa at Indec, and I will very often say that the best career decision that I made was joining Indec, right? And I think a big part of that
Amazing.
was it was a company with some real IP in a growing market at the right point in time. We did something nobody else could do, and we did it really well. But more importantly, I had the opportunity to work with some amazing people, right? And we worked our butts off. We grew that company and had a really, really good run where we powered 50 of the top 100 internet retailers, right? I was the executive sponsor for a period of time at Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, Nike, right? It was a lot of fun. And then when we were acquired by Oracle, I thought maybe I'd ride off into the sunset and get my shares vested forward. And Steve and others basically told me that I wasn't going anywhere. I was a number of people's their exit clause in terms of being like, no, that's the guy you want, kind of running the show going forward. And honestly, it was great. I actually had a really good time at Oracle for about 2.5 years. They merged us in with the Oracle with ATG, which they had acquired about a year earlier. The most senior person left standing on the commerce like ATG side, moved up to run all of the CX apps. So I took over ownership of the Oracle Commerce product, and had a lot of fun kind of digging into kind of the commerce platform side as opposed to just integrating.
Which, by the way, I hear is back.
Wow, I have not heard that, but that would be
I don't know.
That would be amazing if listen, we spent a lot of time trying to bring the ATG product into the cloud, right? And had some good progress. Just Oracle was not putting as much investment behind it, right? And I think you see some of these larger players realizing now, though, that commerce is actually really important, right? And
it's a big deal.
They need to have a presence and a core capability within that space, especially as agentic and some of the newer technologies come to bear. Yeah, just to continue and kind of finish off the path there. When I was at Oracle, I got introduced to a couple of MIT professors, right, who had founded a company called Select, also with a C. I joined on as CEO, and what we were doing there was inventory optimization. So more on the supply chain side, right? But still kind of core retail tech, analytics, kind of at the core, AI, right? As it was defined then, machine learning, predictive analytics. We grew that company. Company was doing great, and then Nike came knocking. Never thought of Nike as an acquirer, but it was at a point in time where they wanted to go direct to consumer, and so we made the decision to join on with Nike, and then I worked at Nike for about 3.5 years. But it was near the end of that time, and Vivek Farias, my co-founder, he was one of the co-founders at Select. He and I had been talking about what the next big thing was going to be, right? And so he started educating me. This was a while ago, long before ChatGPT 3.5 came out. He started educating me on these transformer models, right? These sequence models. This paper out of Google in 2017, and the impact and the opportunity there, and we made before Gen AI really was a thing in the public consciousness. We made the decision to jump in and start to build, which was kind of the initial founding of Simulate.
No, that's super interesting. So let's start from there, and I jump forward a few years. I'm shopping for a black tie event in 2028. What does that shopping experience look like?
No, that is a great question. It's a very deep question as well. So a couple of things, right? One, I think a lot of people are thinking about, agentic commerce and what does that mean, right? And like the big transition we're in right now is what's the role that Gen AI and LLMs are going to have on the overall shopping, that overall shopping experience. Um, I do believe that we could, at a very high level, look at it in terms of where people are shopping. Right? Are they shopping on Perplexity? Are they shopping on ChatGPT? Are they throwing their hat in the ring where like, yeah, they're doing 10 billion in commerce revenue next year, right? Like you could see a scenario where that's the case, and I do believe that they are going to be marketplaces that are gonna drive that.
Mm-hmm.
I also, though, do believe that the brand experience
Mm-hmm.
and customers going directly to the retailer, right, or the brand for that shopping experience is still going to be really important, right? We saw this with you saw this with Amazon, right? And you saw this with the mobile experiences. You saw this with social, and yes, some traffic will start through Instagram or Facebook, right? From a social shopping experience. You see it with, Google shopping, at a point in time. You've got Shopify that, has a big platform and presence where you can transact. But I do think the experience on individual brands is still going to be incredibly important. Okay. Now, within that, and whether you're on like ChatGPT or, at, bootbarn.com or paxson.com, a couple of our customers, you can, what that experience is going to look like is certainly going to be it's going to be more personalized. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, because that is a
Mm-hmm.
wildly overused,
Yeah.
wildly overused term. But I also think it's going to be more conversational. And what I mean by that is the user is going to be able to communicate in more depth what it is that they're actually looking for and have a more interactive back and forth with the brand. Okay.
Speaking of this, like we could go back to Endeca days and
Yeah.
like geek out a little bit. We used to call this parametric search. So like you had this like filter on the
Yeah.
side and like all these attributes that
Mhm.
no one, by the way, UX studies show most people don't interact with
Yeah.
that panel because
Yeah.
it's so hard to use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a communication happening in the past.
Yeah.
It just seems to me like it's shifting and it's getting easier.
I completely agree. So let's take that exact Endeca example, right? 2007, right, where were the clear leader within the market. Everybody had to have the capability to allow a customer to say like, black dress, and then refine by color, size, the ability to filter down, that guided navigation capability, right? And I agree with you today, it's there. And I do believe you still have to have that, right? Like you have to be able to allow people to filter. That being said, right, people just want to be able to say what they want, right? I should be able to say like, hey, I'm looking for I'm going to LA next week for a conference. I want to be able to say, going to LA in September. I want a nice shirt. I'm a size medium. I want it to be light. I'm not afraid of linen, right? Something to that effect. So they want to communicate their preferences as opposed to just like constantly filtering, zooming in, zooming out. And they want the brand to understand them. They want them to understand their intent. They want them to understand their context. Historically, right, you had to do this through those attributes or through keyword search. And to be clear, keyword search for 25 years was really hard to beat. Like but you had to have the name of the product in the title, right? Or what people were searching on, basically in the title or maybe in a short description. Vector-based search then became kind of more semantic, right? But even that, from like a nearest neighbor perspective, has its own limitations as well, as people put more and more into the dialog box, the search box, right? Whatever you want to call it. So I guess to summarize, I think that experience is going to be about the customer coming in and just saying what they want, And whether that's verbal and then, you do speech to text or whatever, right? Or just like typing it in, they're going to type in some attributes, and then it's on the brand to come back to them with the best answer. Okay. And now that best answer is going to be an assortment of products, right? And how they assort those products, how they merchandise those products to the customer is going to be extremely important. And then it's going to be a dialogue back and forth, right? And the dialogue might be, some next steps that the customer can click on, because there's still going to be an interface, right? It could be verbal, but it's going to be a lot more interactive to allow the customer to feel like they're getting a personalized experience based on their words and how they're communicating what they want.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, you're diving into merchandising, which I think is a great place for us to take the conversation, because I think merchandising is at the heart of retail, and it will always be at the heart of retail, no matter who does it or how it's performed.
Yeah.
It's something that as a buyer you experience. It's something as a brand you need to think about. First of all, it's like, how would you define it? Like, what is merchandising, just in case someone's not familiar with the field? And then second is it a skill that survives, or is it something that the computer just sort of picks up and kind of does now? Keep in mind that literally 3 months ago, I was on a consulting engagement where the CEO literally was choosing which products, and you'll find this funny from your Endeca career, like were going to appear and pin to the top of the search based on keywords in the top 2 rows of search results.
Yeah.
In 2025.
Without a doubt. And I will say, we have a capability within our platform that is called visual merchandising, and it allows for pinning. Okay. So we have to today provide that capability. Okay. I will also put a disclaimer out there that I am married to a merchant. Okay. My wife is a VP at TJX at Home Goods. She's been at Staples, CVS. She is a
great
merchant
company.
Yeah. She's so I hold merchandising and merchants dear to my heart as well at a number of different levels. I do believe that the role of the merchant is going to be very critical and going to continue to be very critical going forward. But B, it is going to change and it is going to evolve, right? Like the days of, the merchant prince and like just saying I understand, the Mickey Drexler, I understand the market and these are the trends and we're going to define the trends and put them up there. Really, really hard. But there's still it's still an art form.
There are a few. There are a few of them.
Yep. And it's still an art form in many, in retail, right? The art and science. I think the science side of it is getting more and more important. And I think the merchant, the individuals who are in that role and in that career the ones who are going to be successful are going to be the ones that can work alongside the technology. Now, I'll just allow me just for 1 second. My last company, Select, inventory optimization. This was at the core of merchandising, right? We were providing merchandise financial planning capability, assortment optimization capability, the breadth and depth of the assortment, and providing localized demand, predictions of demand for certain products and assortment of products, which is at the heart of what the merchandising team really needs to understand, to what products they bring into and where they use their limited resources on inventory dollars or open to buy to bring in, right? And that is still a very critical path. Now, in the moment when you're doing commerce and you're interacting with a customer, right? This is where I do believe you need to let the science and the engine play a bigger role, and you need to track and monitor and manage that, as opposed to ahead of time thinking what the top 20 items should be for every search term, right? Because there's a lot of data that the human brain you need some insights from that data and some analytics to help with that decision making. And so we're going to provide more, we're going to provide insights and analytics, but like let the engine and the AI, frankly, continue to learn, provide it with as much data as possible, and put your guardrails that you want on it in terms of that customer experience.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think people are somewhat inured to the fact that like, oh, it's the next big thing. It's different this time. You've personally lived through a lot of big shifts from the big search engines like the rise of Google, keyword search, mobile analytics at Nike and other companies. Gen AI is clearly in the bucket as like the internet, mobile, social, but like what's different this time?
Yeah. So I have found myself when I'm like meeting with retail executives, like starting out by apologizing and basically saying like, listen, I've been in the space for a long time. I am finding myself as that annoying Gen AI founder running around saying like Gen AI is going to change everything and how we work. And like I truly do believe that. I think we've seen some very, very big technological advancements over the last 30 years. The internet, you mentioned them, right? The internet, mobile, social, right? Um, and, a number of, micro ones within there. I believe that the Gen AI capabilities, massive large language models, and then the capability to use transformer models and other, other elements to harness the power of even a smaller LLM and SLM whatever is on par with like changes that we saw with the birth of the internet, right? Like I think it's bigger than mobile, bigger than social in terms of the impact it's going to have. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think there's still a lot of confusion in the market. I don't I think there's still some work to do, but what is possible and how it is going to change how the customer interaction happens is it's very, very real, and it's gonna come
Yeah.
quickly.
And it sounds like you believe this is going to be more of an and experience, meaning like everything we know now isn't going to go away. Maybe the existing channels are going to compress in some way. There's going to be like, there's always some winners and losers,
Totally.
but probably nothing's going to go to zero.
Mhm.
This is just going to be like, again, people used to shop in like the store in their town.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then department stores came in and then the internet and then,
Yeah.
and so things just keep getting, and then people were shopping on social. People
Yeah.
keeps getting more complex.
Yeah. 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 And I actually don't, there was a period where, stores are dead, right? Like retail is dying. When I was raising, we were raising money at Select
Yeah.
back in
Mark
20.
Andreessen, hello?
Yeah,
Are
yeah,
you there?
exactly. Yeah. And back in 2014, 2015, people like, there were VCs that wouldn't touch us because like, oh, your retail's dead. Nobody it's all going to be like marketplaces and Amazon and nobody's going to stores. Like people still like to shop. People still like to go into stores. People like to also have the ease of going online and browsing
Yeah.
products and buying there. People like I actually really like seeing what Instagram's going to show me in terms of products, right? Kind of based on like, yeah, let an algorithm say like, okay, you're an early 50s guy. Let's give you something.
Yeah.
You loved the 90s. Let's show you something like plaid looking or flannel looking. Like great. And so, I do think we're going to see a shift, but stores didn't go away. Malls aren't dead, right? Like, yeah, they're transitioning, but they're to more of a meeting place of a number of different services, right? But you still have flagship stores. You still walk into a Nordstrom, but I do think that the overall omni experience is going to be impacted by now what we can provide with this new technology.
Got it. And I think this is a good transition into, obviously you had a long career. It sounds like your co-founder has been an early researcher into these transformer models that kind of led into what we're seeing now in LLMs. search isn't solved. So start there.
Yeah. So what's interesting there, Rick, is when Vivek and I were talking about what we wanted to do initially. So here's the initial idea where for Simulate, right? Now a lot of it is around like simulating customer behavior and customer experiences. That's where the name came from. And if you think about these transformer models, they're effectively sequence models, right? Where ChatGPT, as an example, it's next best word within a sentence, like a mathematical, probabilistic next best word, but it does it in a way, it's autocomplete, but does it in a way that'll blow your mind, right? It should blow your mind, right? What we did and what Vivek was really looking at was understanding, rather than looking at the sequence of a sentence, can we look at the sequence of a customer interaction and everything a customer does with you? What are they searching for? What are they clicking on? What are they viewing? What are they not clicking on? Right? What are they buying? What are they abandoning? What are they returning? Everything. Okay. And can we think of that as a sequence? And rather than next best word, next best action. Okay. And what we started doing was we built this model that was effectively this customer behavior model that understood what the next best action was going to be. And we thought about using that to, like, we were going to do testing on websites, right? To say, like, hey, what are we, like, where, because we could create these bots that could simulate a customer experience, like what a customer would actually do. What we found was, um, retailers we were talking to said, like, yeah, that's really interesting, but like, if you know what they're likely to click on next, can't you tell me what those products are so they can optimize what I put in front of the customer? Okay. And so then we started going down that path, and Vivek pretty early on was like, listen, the killer app here is search, right? Like, there's more to this, but at the center of it is this query and response of, like, you present some intent, and then
context, intent.
that is exactly right. And that's the key to search, right? Now, what we were doing at Endeca was using that to, like, with every filter and assuming, like, by attribution, every piece of intent was some sort of attribute, whether you had it by faceted or you put it into the search box. What we're seeing, and like, that was fine. Like, it was really good in the, at the time for what was possible. And so when Vivek said search, I was like, listen, man, I've been there, done that. I spent 10 years of my life doing that. I think it's a solved problem, but let's dig in a little more. Clearly not a solved problem. Nobody is happy with their existing search experience on their website, or nor customers, right? It's fine, but it's like, it can be so much better. The delta with which we're seeing now, with what is possible with an LLM based operating system to drive search compared to either keyword or vector based search, is pretty significant. And so Vivek convinced me pretty early on, like, hey, listen, we have some things to work out in terms of, like, scaling and speed using an LLM. And that's really where we've spent the last 2 years focused, is making sure that, like, that it's ready for commerce. Like, you can't wait, you can't be like thinking and come back, 5 seconds later. Like, it needs to be 50 milliseconds. It needs to be quick. And so that's what we figured out, but, like, not a solved problem. And, I do think this is the best opportunity and the biggest step function forward since guided navigation at Endeca. And I include in that vector based and semantic search, because even that has its challenges, right? Of really kind of understanding kind of the customer. It's better in many cases, but it also, it struggles in ways that keyword search actually works better. So can you get the benefit of both of those into one model?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned personalization a little bit as a dirty word. Not necessarily because it's a bad idea, because it's a little bit overused. But at the core of what you're talking about is that if you don't understand and recognize who the user is, what their context of their journey is, what they're likely to do, then personalization is meaningless. And so at some point, you're talking about some corpus of data that you need to build up as a merchant. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I based on how you set that up, I bet you and I have exactly the same relationship with personalization, right? Which is, of course, nobody is going to argue with the benefit of providing a more personalized experience. It's
Yeah.
just it's been an empty promise for a long time, right? That said, right, I do think that doesn't mean we can't keep trying. I, our approach, at least initially within kind of the customer experience and like making it more personalized, is to understand, like, in a particular session, like if you think about personalization, it's like, hey, I just need to know the last thing you bought or the last 10 things you bought, and I'm going to use like that data to now focus and show you what I think you want in the future. There's
Amazon got so good at that, by the way, with books and everything. And like books are like obviously
totally,
lend you to that, right?
totally, and like there's a lot of value in that. But you have to be able to understand immediately what the customer is looking for in the moment today. And then you can manage the assortment and what you show to the customer. So one way to think about it, I mentioned the sequence model, right? And kind of this query and response, these prompts, right? And of intent and context. Within that sequence model, we can include in the query what the customer has done in the past, right? We can include to like have some knowledge of like what they have purchased in the past. Um, Data coming into the experience is incredibly important, right? And building out these models is incredibly important. There's been a lot of progress on PIM systems, and you see what folks at the what the Salsify team has done over the years. Some former Endeca
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
You see around CDPs and under kind of building out. We see those as like incredibly important kind of core data sources and
Mm-hmm.
repositories in the world of LLMs, right? And what needs to happen, going forward. You, though that data in and of itself is not enough data
Mm.
to provide the experience that you need, right? And
Got it.
so one of
Unpack that a little bit.
yeah,
Why not?
so let's take ChatGPT 3.5, right? Like this is the first thing that came out that ever is like, wow, this is a little crazy, right? I can my what was probably 12-year-old daughter at the time was putting a prompt like, write me a rap about a girl named Gabriella that blah, blah, blah. And it was like, wow, that's actually kind of fun, right? It was doing some cool things. What changed from then to now? Yeah, there's been some algorithmic advancements for sure. But the biggest thing is they've just pushed more data into
Mm.
these systems, right? They've trained on more and more data. And that's why these systems have gotten better and better. So data is incredibly important. If I'm a billion-dollar retailer, so I'm not Amazon, right? I'm not even like
Yeah.
Walmart or Target. I've got a decent amount of data about my customers. That is not enough data to build your own large language model or your own
Mm.
GPT-based model to drive your customer experience. This is where our perspective is there's an opportunity to leverage synthetic data, right?
Mm.
And leverage personas. And I'll explain this super quickly, but the idea is ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, like all these massive models, like they've spent tens, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars
Mm.
sucking up the entire internet and creating these embeddings that know effectively everything about everything. Okay. Like they're
Right.
like really deep. They know like cancer oncology, medical papers, and what Rick is likely to buy for his
Right.
next book. Right.
Right.
Based on what he's done in the past. And here's everything I've read in the past. What should my next book be? ChatGPT will give you a pretty good, should give you a pretty good answer. So the other thing that these models actually are showing is actually really good um, shopping behavior, right? Like they actually can mimic how people shop based on everything. So you could go to ChatGPT and you could say like, hey, here's a persona, pretend I'm this person, and here are 5 items. which one would this persona buy and why? Okay. And so what this is like, this is doing a couple of things, right? Just to be succinct about it, the process we go through is we create personas, and we take a product from one of our customers, from our customer's product catalog, and we say, generate a persona for me of somebody who would buy this product. We do that tens of thousands of times. And then we like have a whole way of whittling down to the core, maybe a few thousand core personas. We then make those personas shop. So we go to ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and we say like, hey, here's Bob, here's Rick, here's John, whoever, right? Here's 10 items. Which one would this persona buy and why? And ChatGPT and the others come back with like some really interesting data. Right. And there's been a bunch of research on this. Vivek has written a paper on it. There's other third party, research. If you go to NRF or Shop Talk, there's a bunch of, smaller companies doing like customer paneling, customer panels, and customer insights using these LLMs. But and we then do that millions of times, right? And the data actually is really accurate. And now you can use a bunch of this synthetic data along with the internal data that the customer has to be able to build a model that is now like hyper focused and hyper tuned on that particular brand's products and customers, that you can be used to, manage the conversation with the customer. So this is where having your internal data is incredibly important in managing that, but you need to, there's more that you can tap into now that wasn't possible a couple of years ago.
Got it. I mean, so using the LLMs as a way to help you then tune how you're going to respond to your real personas based on how your fake personas responded.
That's exactly right. And like, if you think about, there's a bunch of examples where like people just use language to describe, right? Trends come up really, really quickly, right?
Yeah.
One of our customers is Rally House. If you go to Rally House and you search for unicorn, you get a bunch of like sporting gear with like unicorns on them. If you search for the unicorn, you actually get a bunch of like jerseys from Shohei Ohtani, right? Because people call him that, right? And the internet knows these things, and the model knows these things, and we can optimize that, that experience based on a lot of this data that we're getting, incorporating it into kind of our Commerce GPT model to provide that. And like, that's what people like. Those are the moments of delight that people get excited about, right? It's kind of fun. Like, you can't do that with keyword search. You would need to put like the unicorn in the title of every Shohei Ohtani jersey that you sell. No, you're never going to be able to do that.
Right. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, the world's changing so quickly. I guess, are retailers ready for this shift?
Yeah. No, they're not. they're definitely not, right? Because they've got an infrastructure in place. They're operating, and they're just trying to drive their business. And frankly, they've got a lot of people like me, yelling at them, telling them like, "Hey, the world's changing. You need a new platform for X, Y, or Z and Gen AI," right? And it's just like, how can they sift through all the noise? I try to spend as much of my time, right, with our customers and with our future customers, with like the executives there, to just try to give them a perspective on what we're seeing, and try to be like more measured on, listen, you have a today problem. And the today problem is like your search today is broken, and it can be a lot better. Right. So let us solve for that with like this LLM based engine, right? To kind of be better at understanding the difference between unicorn and the unicorn, right? And things like that. The this afternoon, not even tomorrow problem, but this afternoon problem you have is people are going to start putting in longer prompts, right, into the search box, right? People are going to start looking for more of a conversational experience, right? So you need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
The tomorrow problem is you're going to have agents coming to your website. You're going to have ChatGPT, Perplexity, John's personal shopping agent, right? That that I initiate is going to go out and look for the next best kind of flannel shirt. And you need to be future proofed for that. And this is where things like MCP servers but like, yeah, MCP is going to be important, but it's the tools that sit on that server that the agent hits that is going to be, and that's what this Commerce GPT concept is as like a market, is like, yeah, be able to understand that and return kind of the right product. So trying to be measured with folks in terms of how things are evolving. I do see retailers and brands leaning in, right, and really trying to understand and learn and see and be ready for it. But yeah, it's moving pretty damn fast right now.
I've written a lot about like the platform market and the fact that some people are moving, but a lot of people are just sort of like staying because we've always, you and I've watched this industry for a long time. It takes a few years to replatform.
Yeah,
most people know you're going to lose all your SEO, even though they promise you never will. And so you're going to dip in revenue. So no one wants to do anything. By the way, IT careers are getting and CMO careers used to be 2 years. Now they're 1 year. Replatforms take 2 to 3 years. So the math doesn't math there. And so you're talking about today, now problems, this afternoon problems, tomorrow problems. What does readiness look like for what's coming? Like if you're going to say, okay, what are practical things that I can do right now that does not involve buying new software?
That's a really good question. And you threw me off with it in the end of like, without buying new software. That was very, very clever. That was very, very clever. So a few things, right? I think understanding your traffic and understanding what customers are, how they're interacting with you, what they're looking for, how much traffic is starting to come in from Perplexity and ChatGPT, right? And frankly, we are the numbers are increasing really, really fast. That said, they're still minuscule overall.
Yeah, it's a small base.
It's the law of small numbers, right? You can grow at 1,000% and still be under 1% of your traffic coming from a Perplexity. And it is right now. It's Perplexity and ChatGPT. Like those are the two that like are really kind of coming and where people are kind of doing some shopping type behavior on those sites. So I think understanding where that traffic is coming from and beginning to think about what does this mean in terms of our roadmap and the capabilities that we want to position for that. Understanding, making sure you have a good handle on your data and have that structured in a way where you can start thinking about, okay, how can I use this data from a modeling perspective and from an LLM perspective, because you are going to have to provide an experience that is more contextual, right, and more conversational. So understanding kind of how that traffic's coming in, and then understanding what is the data that you have to that you want to be ready to go with as that roadmap evolves.
Where does Simulate go from here? What do you think are your next moves? What do you encourage the market to be thinking about as we kind of go forward from here?
Yeah, we started off talking about search, right, and the market there. I actually think what the future looks like is like there's going to be a more robust layer within the commerce stack that is effectively an LLM based operating system, right? It's a capability that sits on an MCP server. It is the capability that is the query and response, whether it be prompts or whatever, right, on your website. And so, but at the heart of that today is search. So I think the folks thinking about search are like from a technology perspective, are in a really good position for what the future looks like. And if you think about, LLMs and generative AI, right? Search is like the use case that people are, that
Right.
people are really starting with, and that you see with
Yeah.
with a chat GPT. And so for Simulate, right, it is like providing like by far the best experience today within our customers stack, right? But then helping them make everything more contextual and dynamic within the customer experience, being able to optimize every pixel on the screen when you return back, when you have that back and forth with the customer, and that
Got it.
that
So
exchange with the
not
customer.
just sort of like the center rail of what's happening, but really,
Everything.
Everything that you see and every action they take between that and swiping the card, I guess.
That's exactly right. Like what are we deciding to put in front of the customer, right? What's the right image? What is the right, like, clearly what are the right products? And that's relevancy ranking, right? That is at the core of search. What are the right products to bring back? What are the right next steps to offer up, right? What are the questions like, okay, so you're looking for a new dress for for Southern California, or a new search. Are you looking for something loose fitting? Do you like something a bit more slim fitting, right? Like, you can ask and engage. So everything that you put in front of that customer, that's where I think the true benefit of what the future shopping experience is going to look like and what's possible now is being able to do that super, super quickly. And that's what I think personalization becomes, right? It's using everything you know about the customer, but to optimize every piece of that experience.
Right. No, I mean, there's no doubt this is all super exciting and confusing and uncertain and disruptive all at the same time. So I appreciate you coming on and spending some time unpacking these things with us.
Yeah.
They say the only way to create the future is to build it. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you're in the arena, man.
Yeah.
Looking to reinvent what search merchandising personalization looks like going forward. So thanks for coming on again, John.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. This was a lot of fun. It's always fun to talk with somebody who's deep in the space and thinking about these things and helping folks with it. So thanks for your work here as well.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, John.
Take care.
That's going to do it for this week's Watson Weekend. If you've made it this far, you're either a retail masochist or you just love the sound of our voices.
I'm going to say it's option 2. Either way, we appreciate you. If you've enjoyed today's show, give us a follow, give us a like wherever you're listening. Leave us a review, preferably with 5 stars. We'll take 4.5 if you're feeling a little bit stingy. Yeah, it's okay.
And don't just lurk on the channel. Share this with a friend, colleague.
That's right. That's right. We're kind of like your little sidekick, helping you bring everybody along in your organization. You can find us on LinkedIn, your Spotify, all the places. And all the links are in the show notes too.
Big thanks to the community, our listeners, as well as the Kaplan Snacks that keep this circus running. Sponsors, you know who you are. And if you're not a sponsor yet,
I mean, what are you actually doing with your marketing budget? Give us a ring, call us, send an email. Rick loves when people slide into his DMs. It's his favorite place.
Until next time, I'm Rick Watson.
And I'm Jessica Liseski. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Now, you can feel like you can go on and do something better with your life. We'll see you next week.
Bye.